Good morning, everyone. My name is Dave Channon, and I'm the OEM Product Manager at Qlik, which means I have the pleasure of looking after your OEM requirements across all product areas at Qlik. Today, I'm going to start the session with an overview of Qlik Cloud and OEM, how you can deploy your Qlik Cloud products to support your OEM use cases with multi-tenancy, what tenants and multi-tenancy actually are, how you can get started, and I'm going to briefly show you what's in our plan before handing over to Jakob for a quick demo at the end of the session. Obviously, there's a huge amount of information that the team will share in future sessions which do deep dives into how to deploy this in practice and how to be successful with Qlik Cloud. So let's get started. Now, most of you have probably seen this before. It's an overview of what's in the Qlik Cloud platform, but I just want to sort of step back and take this from an OEM and embedded perspective, because historically, when we talk about OEM, and this is the case for other vendors, not just Qlik, we talk about embedded analytics, and I've highlighted that in over to the right there. But I think embedded analytics more and more is becoming a core part of the capability that we simply expect an analytics platform, data integration platform or whatever to provide. And in Qlik Cloud, I really want you to be thinking about end to end. So you can build solutions where your customer either directly or indirectly uses any of the capabilities in our platform. Today, this might mean a hybrid experience. So some capabilities are embedded, some are integrated, and some will be in the native Qlik experience. But that's an area that we're working on. I'm very keen to hear your use cases, your requirements, and your product ideas in that area. So as we look forward, we're looking at additional integrations, enhanced embedding, better private labeling, and as you look across the platform today, you move from areas of data integration where you're doing things like data movement streaming, the data warehouse automation that we've historically done in data integration, data transformation, and of course application automation, doing elements of iPaaS and integration platform activities, both inside and outside of our platform. On the right, then you've got the more traditional OEM use cases for Qlik, where you've got visualizations and dashboards that you're then using in an embedded context, also potentially in self-service context, and then adding to that with augmented analytics, AutoML, and of course alerting and action in some of the newer capabilities we have in Qlik Cloud. All of that's then pinned on foundational services, and then of course we've got the connectivity that you know and expect at Qlik. And the reason that I run through this is really because the goal here is to make sure that you can consume any element of this platform within your product. And I can't state this enough, but you shouldn't just be thinking about analytics and embedding some charts in your app. If you need to leverage things to do integration, to do management of data, do some more proactive or interactive acting on that data, then you can do it with this platform. And yeah, this is just again a rather marketing slide, but taking you from ingesting that data, organizing it, synthesizing it, doing some predictive analytics, generating some insights and some outputs from that, collaborating on that within the platform or using the platform capabilities, and then of course embedding that into your own processes, your own product, or your own services to give your customers some informed action as part of that product or service. And we see a lot of this happening at the moment, and some of the use cases are really, really powerful, really compelling. You've got the more traditional extranet and embedded, so those core analytics use cases where you're displaying data sourced on cloud in a portal via embedding. You've got collaborative analytics, which are a little bit more interactive, shall we say. So you might have self-service analytics leveraging data alerts, using notes, and potentially automations for advanced actions in a mainly portal context, and sometimes even full use. You've got the full service analytics, which are traditionally more, using the whole hub, the whole client experience, but we do obviously have some private labeling, white labeling options already today, and of course that's an area that we're focusing on within the platform. You've got augmented and AutoML, so some interesting use cases here around chatbots via ML APIs, ML via AutoML, and this could be for supply chain inventory solutions or other use cases. Data as a service, where you're sourcing and delivering data with prep, transformation, and analytics. Those reporting deployments, where you've got potentially static reporting and report delivery use cases, building on alerts and those integration options that you have within the platform. Data migration, where you might have a service offering to move data between vendors, solutions, etc. iPaaS, where you're doing managed full service integration platforms for driving actions in operational systems, CRMs, ERPs, things like that. And then data movement up the top there, where you're looking at core data integration use cases. You're moving and transforming data, and you're doing things like data warehouse automation. So with that kind of background set, and trying to say, don't just think about the embedded analytics. If I then step back and look at the platform as a whole, we can say, what's a tenant? What's a tenant in Qlik Cloud? And this is a key core concept that we need to understand. What happens when you sign up for a trial, when you buy a subscription for Qlik Cloud, and what is this tenant that we create? And we'll be using tenant probably too much as we go through this series of sessions. So most of this will be familiar from other products and services, but let me just run through this quickly. A tenant in Qlik Cloud is a logical container. Right? A logical container within Qlik Cloud is dedicated to a single organization, and they are designed that way. They're designed to be a container for one distinct organization. It's bound to a geographical region, such as the Americas or Europe or APAC. All of the tenants that you create within Qlik Cloud are created equal. There's no difference between an OEM tenant, an enterprise tenant, etc. The tenant itself and the capabilities that that tenant contains are the same. The only thing that will differ between those tenants potentially is the services and products that you purchase from Qlik, so what your entitlement or your subscription contains. And crucially, we don't say you have to spin up a tenant for data integration, a tenant for data analytics, a tenant for artificial intelligence, none of that. It's one tenant that wraps our entire platform. So apps, automations, automatic experiments, notes, data gateways, data projects, etc. So each of those tenants is a distinct standalone instance, if you like, of Qlik Cloud, and you have full flexibility in what you do with that tenant. If I step onto why we talk about deploying a tenant per customer, this is again an important concept. So we're asking the question, why don't we just put all of our customers into a single tenant? And the reasons for this are multiple. We want potential for more product offerings. So this is really around being able to totally customize the deployment of features within a tenant, the integrations you enable, the connectors you deploy, and how much access to the tenant you give, up to light admin roles for your end customers. It gives you more flexible deployment patterns. Once again, you have choice in configuration, which means a choice in integrations. You can choose whether you deploy the same for all customers or you customize based on the products that you offer to each customers. Customer A might have alerting capabilities, customer B may have notes, customer C may have an integration capability. You have simpler monetization options if you wish to go that route. So as a tenant is that highest level of logical isolation in our platform. Anything that you switch on and off within that container impacts only that one customer. So you don't need to do complex security or feature rules or anything like that. And you've got more control for encryption and data governance. So you can choose to deploy different encryption keys per customer. You could use different email services. You could use different identity providers. You've got that full flexibility. And then when we look at the security within a tenant, collaboration is designed at the tenant level. So users can see other users in a tenant, much the same as many other products like this. So most capabilities are also enabled or disabled at that tenant level. You've got things like data alerts, automations, notes, and more that you can turn on and off. You've then got spaces as the next level down within that tenant for controlling access. And this is a core security mechanism for content. So that's Qlik Sense, Qlik View applications, its notes, its data connections, its data files, and things like that. And then at that kind of lowest grain, you've got users and groups. And to this, you might assign things like, you may have things like private content, such as data alerts, content in personal spaces, including those applications, automations, and other personal objects or content that user may have created. Now, To make this easy and to make sure that you can, in fact, deploy a tenant per each of your end customers, we've produced an offering that allows, specifically for OEM and external embedded use cases, where you purchase a subscription, and this subscription entitles you to N number of tenants for the number of customers that you have. So you're not paying for a tenant per customer. You just tell us how many customers you are likely to have, and we enable that within your license. So you get that one subscription. You can then create a tenant per external organization or end customer. This gives you that logical isolation of content and configuration, as we've just talked about. It gives you a single set of credentials, so new OAuth clients, that give you access across all those tenants. So you don't, it simplifies that access and management of those tenants. It gives you programmatic tenant creation, configuration, and hydration via our public APIs. It helps you with the entitlement as well, so sharing the products and features that you've purchased from Qlik across those tenants, so that you don't need to come back to us to ask us to assign something to a specific customer. You can do that yourself. And it gives you access to, well, you can use with it unified monitoring apps, which give you insight across the estate. If I just quickly flash up the organizational credentials, this sits at that top level across the subscription. You can generate a set of credentials per Qlik Cloud region, they're regional scoped, and then every tenant that you deploy in that region, whether it be 1, 100, 1,000, you can access using this OAuth client. So you have kind of the service account that sits across all of those tenants to help you orchestrate, to help you manage and govern. Everything that we've done in this first phase is programmatic first. So, public APIs, public documentation, and public examples that help you do that creation, configuration, hydration of those tenants. We've got a tutorial series that walks through the first few steps of that journey, and we've got the working examples to support that in a few variants, so CLI Bash, Curl Bash, and in the SDKs, and also in an API collection in Postman. Now, you don't need to breed zeros and ones to get started. If you're new to APIs or you're new to programming, there are easier paths, such as using the API collection example that we provide on our open source repository. This runs in Postman or in similar tools, which provide a GUI for interacting with our APIs. So make sure you join the session in 2 weeks' time, as the team will be doing a deep dive on one of these collections on Thursday, the 2nd of February. But if you do want to dive right in, you want to write your own code, we have Qlik Platform SDK in both TypeScript and Python. We have our CLI in Qlik CLI. And of course, we have all of the APIs if you really want to start from scratch and build something from the ground up. Jumping back to the next thing down on that list, talking about the shared entitlement, whatever you've purchased from Qlik will be on that entitlement. And any tenant in your estate, because they're all created equal, if you create 1 tenant or 1,000 tenants, there is no parent or child, it's just a tenant within our estate. And that tenant can pull down from your entitlement without restriction or configuration. And so in this example, very simple example, I say you've got 5 tenants, 10 professional seats and 1,000 analyzer seats. It's entirely up to you to choose where those go. You can have them automatically assigned, or you can manually assign them on a user basis if you wish to. The multi-tenant monitoring applications come in the form of the OEM Dashboard available in our community. This leverages the existing monitoring applications that we have for Qlik Cloud and kind of aggregates all that data to give you that single pane to see what's going on within the estate. And if I quickly touch on what we've heard and some of the things that we're considering as we move into 2023, key themes being around improving that flexibility for embedding, so modernizing the embedding authentication, evolving the embedding APIs and tooling, and you'll see a lot of that as you start to delve into this. Providing some private labeling options, and the first thing that we're evaluating this year is things like changing the logo in the hub. Making more of the platform experiences embeddable, so whether we need to have additional experiences out of the platform, which are those experiences, how do we bring them into an embeddable context. We're looking to orchestrate key capabilities that we have started the journey on and haven't yet finished, so things like application app objects, data connectivity, automations, data alerts and reporting service, and the full tenant configuration and tenant deletion. And some of these we've already delivered or have just delivered. Some of these are under consideration as we move forward. Also looking to provide that in-platform multi-tenant orchestration in more of a low-code or no-code mechanism. So the current plans for this are that we provide a connector within application automation called the Qlik Platform Operation Connector, and that will allow you to do a lot of the orchestration tasks in deploying and managing tenants within Qlik Cloud. And then also improve cross-tenant manageability and also the documentation and examples, which is, obviously an ever continuing effort as we move more of our documentation and assets onto Qlik.dev. Okay, I've spoken enough. Thank you for listening. It's now time for that demo that we promised. So over to you, Jakob.
Thank you, Dave. So I will start here at the My Qlik page, which is a page you can use if you have a license file with more than one tenant in it. So if you have received an welcome email from Qlik, and you have activated that, and there are more than one tenant in the license file, you can see the drop down here. Here you'll see all the tenants you have. Initially only the first tenant. I have just created more. From within here you can create new tenants, but I won't do that now because we actually need to look at how you can automate that process. What you also can do on this page here from the three dots here is to create the OAuth client credentials. So what you can see here is you can create credentials for the 4 regions. And remember to keep those credentials in a safe place because you cannot get them back if you lose them. You can always renew them on this button here, but then you have to change it in the code you have yourself as well. Okay, I'll close this dialog here, and then I'll jump back into the tenants. Here, this tenant here will be considered my OEM master tenant. So this is only for the OEM partner. So you, and in here I keep my, let's say, master application. This application here is the one I want to copy every time I spin up a new customer tenant. So in this case here I have to remember that ID 87 something here to be used as an input when I'm creating my API calls. So I'll close the tenant, and then I will, this one I can skip, and then I can go over to integration.qlik.com, which I have here. Integration.qlik.com, many of you might know that as the integration side where we're doing a lot of demos, or we did a lot of demos in the past on how to do integration on Qlik Client Managed. We still have that just under the Client Managed menu item down here in the bottom. But now we have created a new menu for Qlik Cloud, which is the same thing just for the Qlik SaaS offering. If we go in here and go directly to the demo, then we can go to provisioning, and we can just skip the first pages where it explained what it needs to be done and go into the test page. So here I can actually test my provisioning. So I'm selecting my master tenant, my client ID, my client secret. I select my app ID, which is the 87 something, there it is. Here I can specify a name, which is the name of the app while it's imported into the new tenant. I can give a space, a name of the space, because we are creating a new space where we are moving the app into to actually secure that app under that space. I'll call it the OEM space. To secure that space under a specific group, we will also need to provide a group name. We call it OEM users, and then you specify what kind of license type you will create for the new users. Integration name, that's just the text which will be used in the management console to create a web entry where we are saying we are accepting API calls from integration demo.qlik.com. That will be your own web page URL if you are testing it with your own web page. But in this case, just let it be as it is. Then you need a private and a public key, and if you don't have it, just click on generate keys and we will generate a key pair for you. Then I will just generate one new tenant. It can be multiple, but in this case I'll just start provisioning one. As we are now using cloud native technologies for doing this. The provisioning is very, very fast. It's not like we have to wait to spin up a new Windows server and then install a lot of software on it. It's much, much faster, and you will see that in just a second. Actually, the provisioning is done, and there the box came. So the provisioning is done, and what we can see when we click OK is that we have one item created, one new customer tenant, and if we expand that, we can see the URL. We can also see the app ID for the app copied in. We can see the integration ID in the bottom as well, so that's needed for the single sign-on, which we'll do in the next step. So all these values are ready for us to be used for the test login. So if we move to the test login, you will see that the values are automatically transferred, the instance URL as well as the integration ID. The private key is coming over too, so we can actually do the login. The remaining parameters will be explained in a later session, but that's basically for the JWT creation. We will do the login, and we will see that we will be logged into the new tenant and actually going directly into the new app created. So in this case, we can see that if I click up here, that the user is not any kind of admin user or OEM partner user. It's a standard new user with limited access. We don't see the management console here. If I go to the hop, and then let me go to catalog and then change, you can see the OEM space has been created as we requested, and the app has been placed within that space. Now let's try to log out. So let's go out here and go back to the login form and say we want to log in as an OEM partner. Never do this as a user, but as a partner. In this case, I provide the client ID and the client secret, and we can patch the user before it logs in. And then the user is actually tenant admin. And what we will see here is that we can now see the management console. And in the management console, we can see the identity provider, which has been created for the JWT login. We can see the web integration with the name we provided in the form. And also if we go into edit here, we can see that we have whitelisted that origin, as we explained earlier. And then we can also go to spaces, and we can see that the OEM space is created as we saw. And if we go into the members of that space, we can confirm that the OEM's users group got access to that space. So exactly what we wanted to accomplish with that provisioning. The form you see here, the provisioning form, in the next version of this Espresso seminar, the 2nd of February, we'll go through the Postman collection Dave talked about. So you will know which endpoints to use to actually create this yourself in your code behind. The login part of the story will be explained 2 weeks after by Alvaro on the 16th of February, where he will go through the SSO authentication using JWT in Qlik SaaS. So thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the demo here, and I'll hand it back over for some quick Q&A. Thank you.